If tomorrow all the things were gone, I'd work for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife. I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American.
Welcome to Central Valley Talk. My name is Ray Johns, and the name of my show is Voices Not Yet Heard. If you see me smiling, I think you know why. You know, it was 3 or 4 months ago I actually sat here and told you that he was going to be elected. And the day prior to the election, November 7th, I'd had an operation. So I was in the hospital, and I was very incoherent. People were calling me, texting me. I finally just didn't answer anyone. And about 3 o'clock in the morning, the nurses came in the room, and I thought they were coming in to do something, take blood, give me a pill or something. These wonderful nurses actually came in to say, "Your man won." And I said to them, "Give me my clothes. I'm ready to go home." You know, I mean, that was enough to cure me right then. I am so excited about what's going on. And we have Gary Miguel back with us. And, well, I don't have to say very much about him. What a great guy. He's a very knowledgeable person. And he just informed me, by the way, that we are 16 hours away from history. And I love this. We're going to have a lot of fun today. We're going to do some fun facts. We're going to start. I'm going to give you a couple of them. And I hope you enjoy these as much as I enjoyed researching them and coming up with them. We'll start with George Washington, by the way, was the first president that was unanimously elected. He received all 270 electoral votes. And the rumors about him having wooden teeth were exactly that. His teeth were made out of gold and silver and actually lead, I found out. Very interesting man about him. I had, let me look here so that I make sure that I'm right. I had one more fact on him, and just bear with me. I know what it was. Excuse me for that. When he was getting ready to go to his inauguration, he didn't have any money, so he actually went out and borrowed $600 from a neighbor just to get to his inauguration. Now, ironically, here is a man who wasn't wealthy, who didn't have a lot of money at the time. His wealth was accumulated actually after he got out of the White House. But what's interesting to me is they offered him a $25,000 salary and he turned it down. What does that say about our first president? You know, now. Actually, I've got another one for you. We're going to do two here today real quick. And the other one is, let's see, John Adams. John Adams and Thomas Jefferson once traveled to England to go to Stratford-on-Avon, the birthplace of Shakespeare. And while they were there, these two guys took out a knife and chipped off one of the Shakespeare's favorite chair and brought it back as a souvenir. So historians, some of them labeled them as the first American vandals. I thought that was kind of neat. Anyway, we're going to bring in Gary Miguel. Gary, welcome again back to the show, buddy. Yeah. Are you as excited as me?
Oh, man.
What a day, huh?
Man,
Tomorrow?
I'll tell you, it's the greatest thing that I could think of as far as an about change since the Civil War.
Absolutely.
Now, we've had changes, of course, but as far as a profound change, I don't think people fully understand the kind of change we're having. And I think the best way to put it is that we have been slowly, like a frog in cold water that you turn the heat on. He never jumps out.
I love this analogy, yeah.
That's what's been happening to us as a country, and we have drifted slowly and then, without us really realizing it, because they come in such slow doses like that frog, that we have become a socialist, communist-style country.
That's all about to change.
And that's about to change.
You know, and you and I said before, we're a part of history. This excites me so much to realize that we're all a part of this.
Exactly.
And you can feel the mood of the country. We talked about the mood of the country 3 or 4 shows ago.
Right.
And you can feel the mood of the country, and it's all positive. Everything that's...
Well, 100 years from now, Ray, people gather like souvenirs, and those things sell out just like bang, bang, bang. And I've gotten a couple of them.
Good.
But, somewhere, someplace, someday, 100, 150 years ago, said, man, I've got a souvenir from this event.
Of course they will.
And it's that profound. But the change is really that dynamic or that dramatic. Because we have slipped into that little by little to where one more election and we'd have been over.
Yeah. I remember you said that 2 or 3
And
shows
now
ago.
we're sitting here, and this is like a coup without firing a shot. It's a revolution without firing a shot.
Amazing.
And
Just-
that's amazing, because what country can we think of in the world, going way back, and you mentioned their names, Jefferson and Washington, those people back there, that we can name a list of them.
Sure.
But think about this: how did they have such wisdom at that time that there is really not a country in the world today, except for the United States, that can have a revolution without firing,
Firing a shot. Isn't that amazing?
That
It
is amazing.
It is amazing. No other country in the world. You know, I wanted to talk to you a little bit, and the audience, of course, about his road to where he is now. That's still, to me, it's just, I mean, you and I talked about him standing on the stage with 18 other people, and one by one, he eliminated every single one of those. And we talked about how even the Republican Party came out against him, and he prevailed. This man prevailed. I mean, it's just, this is the kind of man I want in the White House. This is the kind of man I want running this great country.
Well, he's doing it because of a different reason than anyone else. He's not doing it because he had to,
No,
or
of
has
course
to,
not.
or needs to. A better word would be needs to. Well, he needs to because he needs to be the one that fixes this.
Yes.
But when you think about that, and I thought about that, I think of those people up there, and I think at first I was sitting there when I first saw him, I said, well, this one's this and this, go like that. But I always was a Trump guy from the day he announced. But I, still I'm looking at these different candidates. And I'm like, now I look back on that, and I can't imagine one of them being the president.
I agree
They're
with
so
you totally.
unimpressive compared to who is the
Oh,
president.
my gosh.
It's not even close. And how could they have ever affected any kind of change? They couldn't, because
No.
they're part of the establishment.
Absolutely. They're part
And
of the,
I'm not going
they're
to
part of the problem.
They're
Let's
part,
put,
well, yeah, and
yeah.
that's just the way it is, and there's also the deep state, which I think we talked about that, and that's really where the power really is. It's not the Congress or the Senate, but it's them controlling these people.
Yeah.
And there was nobody that could have possibly defied that other than Donald Trump.
Absolutely, there wasn't.
And he has been vilified and pounded on far more than anybody could ever imagine or anybody ever
You
had.
take all the presidents in history, and none of them were
Right,
pounded on
right.
by the social media.
Right.
You know.
Oh, my God, it
like
just-
like Donald Trump.
Well,
None of
he
them,
was-
ever, all put together.
Right. And for him to go to that kind of bombardment
Yeah.
and survive it and come out stronger every time, and along the way he makes that irrelevant. He doesn't just punch him, he makes him irrelevant.
Yeah.
And he's been able to do that, but he's won over the American people. Now, he's not going to win over, which I think there's something mentally wrong with somebody that wants communism, you know what I mean?
I
think
agree
there's-
with you. It is never.
well, it's a
worked.
dysfunction,
I mean,
mental dysfunction. I can't explain it other than the fact they remind me of women of abuse. Mm-hmm. They just keep sitting there getting abused on and on.
or they keep getting together with the same type guy.
Yeah,
and I know
yeah,
people,
yeah.
You know?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, they get rid
Yeah.
of this guy, and then they get
Right.
another guy that's just like this. That's a great
Yeah.
analogy. Great.
And when I look at that, and I think that there's, I was really impressed the other day because he had a change. He had a change, and he's very very visual. Everybody knows Jim Brown. Mm-hmm. I'm
Great
from when I was
football
a little
player for
kid.
the
Great
Cleveland
football player, but he
Browns.
was on the other side.
Oh yeah, very liberal man. I mean,
Very
he was-
liberal, very anti this and that,
Absolutely.
and sort of like a chip on his shoulder or something.
Exactly.
My
perfect.
God, he's changed over, and now
Yeah.
if he can do it, and he said it the other day. Now, doesn't that tell you something?
Oh yes, it
You know,
does.
I mean, you got to listen to somebody. But I mean, he's got enough sense, and that had to be hard for him to do.
Absolutely.
You realize how difficult that had
You
to
know,
be?
and there's so many of them. Medgar Evers, who
Yeah.
the civil rights leader who was slain, his brother was a racist. You know, hated all white people, total racist. He has come out. He's like 90-something years old and endorsed Donald Trump. He owns a radio station somewhere down south. I mean, people are changing. People are waking up. They realized that's why he got elected. You know, they realized that we needed this. We needed Donald Trump. You know?
And the people that keep fighting Donald Trump, they just seem smaller and smaller rather than
Yeah.
every time they come out with something like I look at that and they just seem smaller and smaller. Look at CNN, how that's ruined them. They've ruined themselves.
Oh yeah, they have. They brought it on themselves. You know, it just amazes me, you know, Gary, when I think about it. All these people that are out there demonstrating, you want to just say, you know, why don't you go to a third world country?
Oh, I know.
And say, you should be counting your blessings, country. You should be applauding the fact that you're so much better off than anyone else. This is the greatest nation on the
Right.
face of the earth, and you should be embracing that.
Well, these young people, it's scary when I consider what I thought when young people were back when I was young people and the people around me.
Yeah. It's a
And-
lot different than
and-
when we were.
Well, I
yeah.
mean, it's not even a comparison at all.
No, there isn't.
I mean, for one thing, when kids worked in those days,
Yeah.
and they had responsibility. I remember families would put out a kid 10, 12 years old to go work with another family.
I milked cows at 12 years old.
There you go, you know.
You know?
And so I look back on the kind of maturity that was required back then. I mean, I could drive through the countryside. There was kids on tractors driving tractors
Sure.
and baling hay.
Yeah.
And all. You seen that?
Oh,
And you know
absolutely.
that. And in charge, like you said, of a string of cows or something, right? And I remember. I look at the kids today, like in even 2022. I see these guys with coloring books and Play-Doh and puppy dogs, and I mean, and they're crying. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
what a snowflakes.
Wasn't that,
I
you
mean,
know,
that's
that, back to
I
that.
mean, back then families were
That blew me away.
people
this
had
summer.
families back then at their age.
When these college co-eds were crying about
Oh,
the fact
my.
that Hillary Clinton lost, and they were bringing in counselors. They were bringing
Right.
they even brought in dogs.
I
They were
know.
giving them coloring
I mean,
books.
it's
You and I
ridiculous.
talked about that.
Yeah.
You know, and I thought what they
Yeah.
really needed was a good kick in the butt.
Well, and,
know?
and you know, back then at that time, there wasn't that many people who go on to college anyway. But there was women, you know, 17, 18. They had family. They were
Mm-hmm. Yes.
responsible for a family.
Yeah.
And you'd have to get a babysitter for these people.
Oh yeah,
So-
absolutely.
oh, I got to get a babysitter.
Oh, yeah.
17 years old or something. Remind me, you know, like I look back, it was just incredible when kids at that time kids could get a driver's license 14 years old. That was understood. I got my first ticket when I was 12.
Oh,
you
my
know.
gosh.
And my friend, I was talking to him the other day, and he got a ticket when he was 12.
Uh-huh.
You know, and I got one six months later.
Yeah.
We hadn't had a driver's license yet, but I had a friend of mine, or I have a friend of mine. And his dad was a farmer out in the west side, and a big farmer, real nice guy, Russell Barlow. And this friend of mine, who was about a year older than me, Jim Barlow, and Dad bought a little airplane. Well, it was a tripacer. I mean, it was an airplane. I mean, it wasn't no kite, but I mean, you had to fly that airplane. Right?
Yeah.
Boy, I couldn't wait to go for a ride in it. You know.
That's what is that what made you want to become
No,
a
I
pilot?
started way back when I was working. But anyway, I was, you know, any chance I got to get in one, I would.
Oh yeah.
Well, anyways, Dad buys one, and old Jim, he gets his license. And I don't think he was 16 or right at 16 years old. And I don't think there's a restriction there. But I'm like 15 at that time, and he called me and asked me if I wanted to go flying, and I said, yeah. He says, well, I'll teach you how to land. Well, I'd go out there, and he teaches me in one day how to
Oh,
take
my
off and land the
goodness.
airplane. And I thought that was just and now, think about this: letting that kid, 16 years old, taking his buddy 15 years old, and my parents thinking that's fine, I guess. Didn't think anything about it.
Oh, now it would be.
Oh my God! Can you imagine?
Oh, they'd go crazy.
And heck, he and I and his cousin, he's 16 years old, I'm 15. His cousin about the same thing. We fly to Long Beach.
Oh my.
Well,
goodness.
you wouldn't let a kid drive to Long Beach
No,
today,
no.
unless he was 20.
No,
You see
unless
what I
he,
mean?
you're right. Unless he was 18 or 20.
I mean,
Absolutely.
you know, that guy, that Jim Barlow, he taught him, I wasn't the only one. He taught a number of them how to fly and how to land an airplane in one day.
Oh my goodness.
You know, he would have been, if he didn't go to the military, but had he gone to the military, he would have been a great fighter pilot.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that guy was good. And but can you see what I'm getting at when I'm
Oh
talking
yeah.
about the maturity
Absolutely.
level?
The difference. Yeah.
And there was kids operating equipment and in charge. I had friends of mine. Their dad wouldn't go in the dairy. The kids were in charge of the dairy, and they'd
See?
set their schedules up and
Yeah.
all the rest.
So totally different than the way things are
Hey,
now.
we're talking about kids 15, 14, 12. I mean, it's amazing the responsibility. And kids that were taking care of kids, 9 years old, had to take care of a bunch of kids.
Yeah.
And they had the responsibility of that. Well, now, my God, we got to have a babysitter for a 9. We got to have a babysitter for these millennials, these snowflakes.
That just, that just blew
Pathetic.
me away. I could not
Yeah.
believe Hannity talked about it.
Did he?
Oh yeah, he talked about it on two different shows back here a few months back when it all happened. And I just, I was in shock. That here these young co-eds, college co-eds, and I thought these people are going to be running the world someday, and they can't accept the fact that Hillary Clinton lost the election. Couldn't believe that. Just could not believe it. We're gonna take a little break here, but before we do, I'm going to give you a couple of more my presidential fun. We're doing presidential fun facts and trivia today, and the next one is that the third and fourth president, Thomas Jefferson and Madison, were actually arrested. They were arrested because they took a buggy ride in Vermont on a Sunday. You weren't allowed to do that.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, these two presidents were. I'm finding this stuff out, and I hope you people are enjoying it. Please call in. I'm live right now, if you're watching me, and call. And I hope I get a bunch of call in on trivia because I enjoyed so much researching this stuff. So if you get a chance, call in. We're going to take a little break here, and we'll be back, ladies and gentlemen, in two. Okay, I'm back with Gary Miguel, and we're doing fun facts and trivial, presidential fun facts and trivial today. And I got a couple other ones for you here. Interesting about Abraham Lincoln. He was the only U.S. president who was a licensed bartender. He actually owned a bar in Springfield, Illinois called Berry and Lincoln. He was a co-owner. He owned it with. And interestingly enough, another fact about him, he was the first president that was actually photographed at his inauguration. And this is what I found interesting. In that photograph, standing a few feet from Abraham Lincoln, was John Wilkes Booth.
Wow.
Who actually, of course, assassinated
Wow.
him later. He was in that photo.
Is
I
that-
found that
man.
that really interesting. And Lincoln was also, and people know this, a wrestler. Apparently, he was living in this town at the time. He was a bartender, and there was a man named Jack Armstrong who was a big bully, went around beating people up, and one day someone mentioned to him, you better stay away from Lincoln, he's a wrestler. So he challenged Lincoln. Lincoln just ignored him, and he finally challenged him too many times, and Lincoln went out and actually beat the man.
Oh,
Yeah, I
wow.
thought that was great. So if you're watching me now, like we said, we're live. Please call in, talk to Gary and I. We're so excited about what's going on. Like I said, Gary pointed out that at the beginning of the show at 4 o'clock, we're 16 hours away from history, ladies and gentlemen. I am so excited about what's going to happen. I mean, it's going to be a personal boost for me, a personal boost for Gary, and a personal boost, ladies and gentlemen, for this great country.
Well, Ray, it's just a whole different set of thinking. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Talking to trivia, an interesting statistic, going back, I forget how many presidents. Well, going back as far as they could see. Anyway, it runs about, when you put your cabinet together, usually it runs about 50% people, government people, and about 50% private enterprise
Yeah.
people. Okay. And we go to the most recent presidents, except for Obama. You know what it is?
What?
8% private.
I did not know that.
Think of that statistic. And
I
then,
did
then
not
ask
know
yourself, why is the country got itself in such a shape?
Oh, absolutely. You don't have to ask. I mean, it's right there. I didn't know that.
8%.
That's interesting. Very interesting, Gary.
In other words, you can't have the insane run the insane asylum.
No.
And that's what we've had.
Yeah.
And we were slipping very rapidly into there was no recovery.
No.
Had it not been for Trump, where would we be if you
God.
really go back and think about it?
Is that scary? And after meeting you and you pointing out so many things to me, I'm not kidding you. On November
Yeah.
7th, after I had that operation, I was scared to death.
Well, Ray, here's the thing about when you consider this: had there not been an Obama, and the kind of people that've been running this country during his 8 years, and I'm talking about some Republicans in that.
Oh, I know.
You understand
We talked
that.
about that
Yeah.
before.
But it had not been for Obama, there never would have been a Trump.
Oh, absolutely.
We'd be into
yes.
the Jeb Bush and the whole thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably Cruz and yeah.
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 But Obama he just was so opposite of America. And there's no patriotism
Yeah.
there's no patriotism with people that follow me.
No, absolutely.
It's strictly me. There's no idea of patriotism or anything like that. And they're socialists. I mean, look at the Bernie Sanders outfit.
Oh,
My
gosh,
God,
that
what
was-
a bunch of derelicts.
You couldn't be more socialist than that.
And you couldn't be more out of it. You know
Oh,
what I
yeah.
mean? It's like they're insane. You know what I mean?
And they're still their rhetoric is still the same today.
Oh, well,
And
they
as they
haven't-
try to pull Trump down.
Well,
you know?
what you got to do with that, you got to defeat them. You can't reason with them.
Oh, you have to defeat them.
So
Absolutely.
they have to be defeated, and they are being defeated. And once
They
they're
have been
defeated,
defeated. Yeah,
they become
basically.
irrelevant.
Yeah.
And that's important. And
Yeah.
this is what's happening to the main news media. Trump has been effective in making them irrelevant, and they look stupid.
Oh, of
well, I
course
mean,
they
they
do.
look stupid to anybody that has half a brain in his head.
He's made them accountable, hasn't he?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
You know,
I really do.
And so I don't know whether people realize just how. Well, I think they do. I mean, I talk to people and they look at it, and I think it's starting to hit home a little bit. Oh, wait a minute. What if we were then waiting for Hillary up on the stage tomorrow?
I think it started, and you brought this up probably 5 shows ago when you were on. You brought up the fact that the American people were starting to wake up.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. That's how he got elected. They woke up, and you knew it all the time. You called this election.
You know, like that, a real visual for that is, and we can go on and on, but man, a big one was Jim Brown.
Oh yeah.
That's huge.
It is huge,
But it
considering
shows
where he
you-
came from. You
But
know.
that's right. But it shows you the kind of person he is when given the chance.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Trump gave him the chance.
Trump gave him the chance.
Trump
and
giving you a chance and I a chance to be who we can be, not who somebody thinks we should be.
That's what this country is all about. I've
Right.
said from the beginning,
Right.
we the people and Donald Trump. I love saying that. You know,
Right.
can you imagine, Gary, what this country could come if we all got on the same boat? You know, and it was we the people. You
Right.
know, we could do anything we want in this country.
Right.
This country could go anywhere it wanted to go.
Right.
Financially, in every other aspect.
Well, and Trump, his idea is to bring the kind of government which was originally from the day it was started
That's
back
what we're
to
saying.
that.
We the people, exactly.
So that to the people. I mean, he's avoiding all these media, and they're all mad about it because they think they should go through them. Listen, he don't have to do that. He can go directly to the people. And what happens when he does that? You do that often enough, and I have people tell me that all along. You feel like you know him,
Yeah.
and you feel like he knows you.
Well, you've got me going to
You
going
know.
to his Twitter all the time, and it's
Well,
you-
if he was to walk in, you'd just say, "Well, heck, I've met you before. I think I know
yeah,
you."
'cause yeah, exactly. That's how he makes
And then
you
you
feel.
tell him, "Man, by God, I found out you know me."
This is just Gary. I can't think of a more exciting time in my life than right here and right now, with what's about to happen some 16 hours from today.
Well, Ray, we
From
should
now.
be excited.
Yeah, we
because
should.
it gives hope. Remember, you mentioned that. I always thought of that, how the lady had given up hope.
Oh yeah, the
Well,
divorced mother of 3.
she's just
I'd
part
like
of
to know
so
where
many.
she's- Yeah.
But now she has hope.
Now she has hope.
And
And
her-
wherever
that's
she's
right.
at, lady, I hope you call in. I really do, because yes, we talked about the pursuit of happiness and hope. And of course she said, I don't have time for it. I've got 3 little children. I'm a divorced mother of 3. I don't have time to have
Well,
hope.
look how they did it with the corporations. Corporations just another extension of government, the large corporations,
Absolutely.
and they're in bed with that what I call corruptness or crookedness.
Sure.
Right.
Sure they are.
Okay, because they make it impossible for you to start. Look at your business and look at the regulations that
Oh
you
my
have.
gosh. They're
What if you
killing
could
me.
start that without that?
Yeah.
Then why couldn't the next guy do
Yeah.
that? The next guy do that. I'm not talking about starting with something that's going to harm people and hurt people, but
Yeah.
I'm talking about starting with something that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the inspiration that Trump is coming across with. But you feel like he's on your side for this reason, that he ignores those people and puts down those same people that
Exactly.
are on top of you.
Exactly.
So you're saying, now wait, he's fighting for me without me even telling him about my story. He don't have to. I see what he's doing.
Well, I can't wait. Sandra called me just before the show and was telling me giving me the schedule. She is so on top of everything.
Right. Good
Giving
for
me
her.
the complete schedule of what's going to happen tomorrow, so I'll know what to watch and what's going to happen today. And I'm really excited. I got to do a little work today. I got to show up once in a while, I guess, and not just be the boss, but show up. So I'm going to do that tomorrow. But I'm really looking forward to watching as much of that on because it's history and I'm a part of it.
Well, the thing too, never has the opportunity been equal to everyone as it is right now.
Oh my gosh! Yeah,
I don't care because we got a president that has demonstrated over and over and over. He doesn't understand it even. He doesn't see color. He doesn't see
No.
any discrimination based
No.
on any of that, right? He only sees one thing: Americans.
Yeah, exactly.
You see, and you get that feeling after a while. That's all.
Look what he's
So you-
done. And he
that's
didn't
right.
he didn't do this to prove his point. He put the best people that he could put. If they happen to be black, they happen to be black.
Right. If they happen to be women, they happen to be
They
women.
happen to be women. He did that. And
Right.
he's hitting the road running. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
Reagan did not have his cabinet complete until almost the end of March.
Right.
He's almost complete. He's ready to take off right now. That shows you what kind of and he's tireless. You brought that up. The man he's 70 years old, and he can run circles around people that
Oh,
are
my
40 and
God.
30,
But he has this. He has this don't quit attitude, and no fear.
Yeah. That's it. That's
No
it,
fear.
Gary. No fear.
And he goes in there and he says, "I'm changing this." Now those people can yap. Those Democrats can yap up there and try to. He just keeps going and going.
Absolutely.
Right? And he backs up who he's supposed
His
to.
perseverance is just amazing. It has just been amazing.
And he's a genius and intelligent-wise, like what he did
yeah.
with the CIA. He went into that meeting without telling a soul, knowing full well that if he come out and there was a leak, then he knew where the leak was coming from. He didn't have to have anybody. He didn't have to have anybody go find that out for him. He did find it out himself.
Months ago, when the media was beating him up, and you and I were talking about this, and we both came to the conclusion. Well, somebody said, "Well, he can't do this, he can't do that," and you and I both said he's going to be like Henry Ford in the 1930s. They came to Henry Ford and they said, "What makes you a genius?" He says, "I'm not a genius. I just surround myself
the
with
key.
geniuses," and that's
Yeah.
exactly what.
And he
Donald
holds
Trump
them
is doing.
accountable.
And he holds them accountable.
And he holds himself accountable.
Absolutely, that's a big part right there. He holds
And
himself
like
accountable.
his strategist, that Bannon, that guy's a genius.
Yeah.
And he says, I advise everyone, hold our feet to the fire, and that includes me.
I loved it. I loved it earlier this year when we were talking about him, and we both came to the conclusion that he had too big of ego to lose. I mean, he does. Donald Trump is not going to let Donald Trump down. He wasn't, and that is where we benefit because he's not going to let the American people down. He's for this country. He's for making this country great again, which he's already started doing. And
Right.
I just love that slogan.
Well, he couldn't be anything without him being what he is.
Absolutely.
Where would he be if he wasn't like he
Yeah.
is? I mean, he'd be down off the stage
Sure.
just like Jeb Bush fell
Sure.
off. I mean, he couldn't do anything unless
No.
he's exactly what
Exactly
he is.
what he is.
Now, yeah, maybe I don't like the way he said that you this language or that language or something
Who
like
cares?
that.
I mean, who
But
cares?
come on, I mean, we can go back on. There isn't anybody. You just mentioned how those guys, those former presidents, they're like icons, and what they did.
Oh my God! I mean, can you imagine Thomas Jefferson chipping away at an heirloom at something so famous so that he can have a souvenir? This is the third president of the United States, an icon and a great man. The man wrote the Declaration of Independence, for crying out loud.
I mean, if you want Trump to be that pure, you better go pick up somebody out of the monastery.
That's right.
Where they don't talk to anybody or
That's
anything.
right.
Hey, how can they do it?
They've taken a vow of silence or something.
Right.
You know? Absolutely.
Let those guys run.
That's what it's going to take. And people, you and I talked about all the things that they came out. The media was constantly they were looking. I read, I can't remember who it was that said Hillary Clinton had actually hired 25 investigative reporters just to dig stuff up on Donald Trump,
Right.
and it didn't matter.
It didn't matter.
He went right through it.
He
every
makes
single
he
time,
makes it
right through
he
it.
makes them irrelevant
Yeah.
in short order. And if he had been any other way, if you look back on it, did he make mistakes? Yeah, he could have done this and that. But I'll tell you what he did. He kept pressing on, and they threw everything, and then some. And I'm talking about billionaires.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what they're talking about right now. He's talking about cutting the government 20%, saving $10 trillion
Oh my
in 10
gosh.
years.
See, and that's why you want somebody like him that can do this.
And
you know?
that's what he's going. That's what he's about right now, and he's going to have the people to do that. Well, you're going to have a lot of people upset if you got laid off. You know, I mean, I don't blame them, but then I always ask them this way. I said, why are you worried if you're working for the government, and you're worried about your job because Trump come over? Because Trump says over and over he's going to hire the best. So why are you worried
Yeah,
about it?
absolutely. Why would you be?
Yeah, if you're
Why would you be?
Well, either that or you're not.
Well, Gary, we're going to take a little break, but before we do, we're doing fun facts. I'm going to give you a couple other ones here. President John Tyler had more children than anyone in the history of the presidency. He had 8 by his first wife and 7 by his second wife.
Wow.
And he was 70 years old when his last daughter was born. Her name was Pearl. This man was active, wasn't he?
Ready?
Okay, now this is an interesting thing too. James Madison, by the way, was the smallest president ever. He was 5'4" and weighed 100 pounds. Maybe 100.
Really?
Yeah. And I found that.
I always thought
interesting.
he was the big guy.
No, the big guy was. Hang on a minute, because I got him here. William Taft. He was the largest president at 6'3", and he weighed 335 pounds. He was a
wow.
big boy, wasn't he? One of the most interesting characters I came across was Andrew Jackson. You talk about, and I looked at this, and I thought there were 2 really tough presidents. Teddy Roosevelt, of course, everybody
Yeah.
knows. Andrew Jackson was unbelievable. I mean, this man would adjourn Congress and go out and beat the hell out of some senator that he was having an argument with. They said he had over 100 duels, and when he died, Gary, he had 3 bullets in him that they couldn't remove. They said one guy, a house painter, tried to assassinate him. He was the first president they tried to assassinate, and the guy missed with both shots. And they said Jackson chased him down on what is now the South Lawn of the White House and beat him with a stick until the Secret Service could get there and pull him off of it. We're gonna take a break now, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back in 2 and 2. Isn't that? Okay, I'm back here with Gary. Like I said, we're doing fun facts, presidential fun facts, and we're just having a blast with this. And I'm live right now. Please call in. I'd love to hear from somebody that has a fun fact that I haven't heard about. And I enjoyed so much doing this, and I hope you enjoy it. And if anyone out there has got some fun facts and trivia, presidential trivia, please call in. We're a day away from history, ladies and gentlemen, and I thought it would be ideal to do this. Okay, here we go again. James Buchanan was quite a president. People don't know this. I was shocked when I found out that he used to buy slaves in Washington, D.C., and then take them to Pennsylvania and set them free. I mean, what a great man. And I've got let me go through this. James Garfield. This is my most fun thing. James Garfield was ambidextrous in more ways than one. And now this is going to blow your mind like I thought. How could anybody do this? He could write Greek and Latin with each hand at the same time.
Oh,
and he used to
my
entertain
God.
people, Gary, at the White House by doing it. Can you imagine that?
No, I can't.
I mean, he
imagine
would
that.
sit there and he would be with each hand. I mean, how does your brain even function to be able to do that? And he would write sentences in Greek and Latin at the same time. His right hand would do
and-
Greek, his left hand would do Latin.
Wow.
That just blows me away. Yeah. Well, anyway, like Gary said, we're about 16 hours away from history, and I tell you, I'm in a daze. One of my friends called me the other day and said that he had a terrible dream, and I said, "What was the dream?" He said, "I woke up and I thought everything else was a fantasy, and Hillary Clinton was president." I said, "That wasn't a dream. That was a nightmare."
That was a nightmare, yeah. God, what's going to happen to her? I mean, Obama doesn't look like he's going to pardon her.
Yeah, it doesn't look like that.
And the thing is, if he did, then there's a big problem with that, because then if she's pardoned, she can't plead a fifth, and then that involves Obama himself,
Sure does.
and that's the problem there.
Yeah, because there's been no mention of that at all.
Well, there's
has
going to
there?
be a big battle. You can see how the Democrats are dealing with all these.
Oh yeah.
These are the top people in the United States, and the Democrats see something wrong with them. I asked the question, well, then who would you put in the place of that person?
What'd they say?
No, I just asked the question I would ask.
Yeah, well,
All of a sudden you got a guy like that, Tillerson,
Oh,
Rex.
yeah.
Okay, well, then who would you put in this place?
He's ideal to me.
All they ever put in somebody's place is somebody crooked as they
yeah,
are.
exactly.
That's what's been
Exactly.
going wrong all along.
Gary, let's just face it. they're going to pick on him for 8 years.
Yeah.
Because they don't have any choice. I mean, for the way that it's the way their mind thinks. It's their mindset, and they're going to continue to do this. It's not going to affect Donald Trump.
No.
It's not going to affect the administration. But it's sad to me that they can't see the light.
Well,
Or even if they
that,
do, they don't want to recognize it.
well, I think there is a missing something.
I think you're right.
It's a dysfunction, and let's face it, everywhere we can see a little of that. You know what I mean? And that's just a dysfunction they have, and you can't correct it. So what you can do is make it irrelevant, and what you can do is basically destroy it
Yeah.
by making it irrelevant.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it becomes less and less and less. And what I've noticed is that some of the people that are the most vocal, like Schumer as an example, I mean, they keep looking smaller and smaller and smaller. CNN keeps looking smaller and smaller. And you start,
Perfect example.
after a
Sam.
while, and you go and you say 6 months from now, a year from now, you're sitting there talking to somebody, and America is getting great again. And you're sitting there trying. I mean, doesn't it like, God? Why am I even listening to this?
Yeah.
They got nothing to say.
I won't listen to him. I don't listen
No.
to CNN anymore.
And you're not going to. I mean, with people, as far as somebody that doesn't get it, why don't they get it and get on the train?
Absolutely.
Because the
get on
train is heading north.
That's right.
Right? Not
That's
south.
right.
It's
That's
heading
right.
north.
It's heading north. I
Yeah.
love that term.
So
yeah.
get on the train, and how you get on the train is you change yourself, and you say, okay, now this is what I changed my attitude. Instead of dragging back there with a caboose, I'm getting right up there with the engineer.
Absolutely. I'm going to be in the first
Yeah.
car.
I wanna be in the
I
first
love
car.
that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so that's how you get on the train, and you start becoming bigger and better than what you thought you were, because one reason why you didn't think you were any good, because people keep telling you that.
Absolutely. You and I talked about
God
that.
almighty.
on
That's
a
all
former
Democrats
show.
do is tell you, I got to
Yeah.
help you.
If somebody tells you, put you
Good
down
Lord.
time after time after
Oh,
that, finally
my
you start
God.
believing
Yeah.
it.
Oh, my God. You're just
yeah.
incapable. Here's a free phone. Oh, you're
Yeah.
incapable. Here's
Yeah.
here's a
Take-
card. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, you can't work. Man, you're looking at somebody there
We're
that's
gonna give you
healthy.
some, we're going to give you some more welfare tickets.
And
you
pretty
know,
soon
whatever.
and they use the excuse.
Sure.
Racist as all get out.
Yeah.
You can't because you're black or because you're brown or because you're whatever. That is the biggest racist statement and thought and attitude.
There was a man last night on
You know.
TV, and I wish I could get his name, and I can't remember whether he was on Hannity, but I think he was. And he was talking about that. He was a black man. And he was talking about the fact that the Democrats have just what you said, They're the biggest racists in this country.
Oh, absolutely,
And people
yeah.
don't see it. They just don't see it. It's like they're a bunch of sheep. They just follow them around and believe everything
Well,
they
if
tell
you've
them.
been indoctrinated that way
Sure.
since you was little, that you're not good enough.
Yeah.
Not because did you try? Oh well, I was told I wasn't good enough.
Just like affirmative action years ago, and I
Exactly.
knew it. I was in
You knew
in
that
college,
then.
and I was a college
Yeah.
student, and my thoughts were, you don't have to give me anything. I'm as good and smart
Yeah.
as anybody else.
I just
don't
wanted
need
an
it.
opportunity to compete.
I just wanted an opportunity, but they were coming around saying, you know what, we're going to help you people. We're going to do this for you. That'll bring you up equal to everybody else, and you'll be able to go out there in the world. Bull crap.
Well, the most unequal thing in the world is trying to make somebody equal.
Absolutely. Say that again, Gary. I want people to hear that. Say that again, please.
Well, I get it into the family deal, with, like, say they got one kid that maybe is this way, and they try to make them equal.
Yeah.
Well, that's the most unequal thing in the world. That's unfair to the one that
Yeah.
that could get
Absolutely it is.
You know.
Absolutely. Great statement.
And
Great
I think
statement.
that attitude has got to end, and I think it ends with, if people will sit down and listen to what Trump, and people that support him, leaders, I mean, he's got leaders, and listen to them and what their message is, and I think you're going to find, why don't we emulate that? Why don't we get behind that? Come on, look at Carson as an example. Dr. I mean,
yeah.
there's a guy that had a rough. You talk about a rough,
gosh.
shouldn't have been
He grew
anywhere.
up in the inner cities with a
Oh, my God.
with one
Yeah.
one parent, and I saw that movie. I don't know if you see the movie. How interesting! His mother would come in and
Yep.
they'd be watching TV. She'd turn off the television. I
give her credit,
You're gonna get
yeah.
2 hours and my mother was like that. You know, you came home, you got your chores done, whatever they wanted, you know, you could do, and then you stayed outside. You went outside and did something. You got fresh air. You ran. You played. You threw baseballs around, and then you came in and had dinner, and then you had a couple hours television time.
Well, your mother had she instilled pride in y'all.
Yes,
you
she
know,
did.
and it wasn't.
she did.
And it was pride that it wasn't a prejudice type pride,
No,
but just
not at all.
be like everybody, but have the opportunity.
Yeah.
You know, but see the opportunity and take it.
You know, I got to tell you, now that you brought this up, I miss my mother so much. I'm going to tell this story about my mom. I loved Mickey Mantle. I thought Mickey, and that's why I always wore number 7. I thought Mickey Mantle, if he didn't walk on water, he knew where the rocks were. You know, that's how much. And I remember that my parents would call me in every time that Mickey Mantle was hitting. I'd be outside there, and I'd come in and watch him swing the bat. You know, and one day I was sitting at the dinner table, and I was just going on and on and on about Mickey Mantle, and my mom said, "It's great to have heroes, and I'm glad you do, and you should look up to people, great people."
Yeah.
But she said, "Don't ever, ever think that anyone else's light shines brighter than your own light."
Man, that was profound.
I know this
Wow.
lady got to the 5th grade. My mom got to the 5th grade. She told me that, and that
Man.
has stuck with me. I was probably 6, 7 years old.
God,
at the
that's a
time.
wise lady.
Yeah. That has stuck with me, Gary, ever since. I thought it was a great statement.
God, what-
I
you're-
told Sandra, and she said the same thing. What a
Yeah.
profound statement, you know.
God, that is really something. But that's what the Democrats have. Oh, I know what I was going to say. The Democrats, right? Okay, they're going to help us and do all that, right? It's to bleed you. And let's get to this point here. There's 8 people in the world that control half the world's wealth. You saw that.
That's the 1%ers, huh?
Well, it's only 8 people.
Yeah.
8 people
Oh, that's amazing.
that controls. One of them is, of course, Bill Gates.
Yeah.
Here's what's interesting: 6 of them are Democrats. None of them are Republican. 2 of them, I think, from foreign country.
Yeah.
Those 8 control half
the
of the
wealth.
world's wealth.
Just amazing.
Okay, now, if you look at that and say, well, I mean, I don't care if they're Democrats or what, you know, but the point is they are Democrats.
Yeah.
Now, what did they? If you look at their business, what have they done and how have they done it? It had to be on the backs of the American people, and that's what the globalists are all about. And no borders, draining the
The
people.
elitist, yeah.
And how they do it is by getting voted into
Sure.
positions, okay, that is tolerated, and people think they should be.
Yeah.
All right, by giving them something.
Yeah.
I've said this before. It is no different than giving beads and baubles to Indians.
Make them feel obligated. you know.
Absolutely, and
Make them feel
they want
obligated.
more, so
Yeah.
they keep voting.
Excuse me.
And isn't that something? I'm okay with that as far as, you know, these people, but it's interesting how critical they are, and you'll find as time goes on, I'm seeing it more and more, just how hypocritical Democrats really are.
Oh, absolutely.
On the
I
one
have seen
hand,
it.
they're saying this; on the other, they're doing the opposite. Just the opposite.
We saw it. We saw it in Hillary's campaign. We saw
Absolutely.
It, we saw it time after time again. We saw that.
And she let slip so many times that she really didn't care about anybody.
No.
If you look at it, they care about themselves.
Sure.
They do not care about people.
Look at the Clinton Foundation.
Oh,
we
my
talked
God.
about that before. You think they cared about
Well,
anyone else?
my Lord, here's what's interesting. Oh, well, wait a minute. How do we know that's illegal and that was criminal and all that? Very simple. The money dried up as soon as she's not in power. So what was she selling? She wasn't selling.
Exactly.
She wasn't manufacturing anything.
You know,
She wasn't building
No.
anything.
And you know, you and I are been on the same page about the Democrats and about Hillary Clinton. And one of the things that upset me most about her was after the bombing in Orlando, in Florida.
Right.
When she stood up and talked about gay rights and women's rights, and I thought, oh my gosh! And she had just accepted $25 million from Saudi Arabia, a country that kills gays and makes women into second-class citizens.
God,
What a hypocrite!
I mean, my Lord, and people can't see through that.
Yeah,
It's just, it's scary.
yeah,
And so the other,
it is scary, Gary.
and you take, for instance, like I said, and it's not, her enablers aren't just Democrats. There's Republicans in that uniparty, in that deep state. And really what it boils down to, we have Congress and Senate, and the president, but for a long time, that's not who's been running this country.
No, absolutely
It's
not.
running by the deep state, which is these families and Wall Street.
And Wall Street.
Well, I will say Bernie Sanders is right about that one.
Yeah, he was.
You
He was
know.
right on about that.
And we've talked about it because I've seen it, and we talked about it. You've seen it. I've showed you myself.
Sure.
I know for a fact for the last 60, 70 years, the American people have been robbed 93%.
Oh yeah.
And you'll
Oh, yeah.
see, you've seen that.
Oh yeah. When you showed me that kind of did it. That I went, whoa.
Yeah.
You said 7%, and I said, what happened to those other nine? Where's the other
Where'd
93%?
the other 93%
Yeah.
go? And it's there.
Yeah.
It'd be
It's right
different if it wasn't there, but it's there every year.
I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a little break. We're going to come back. I've got Gary Miguel with me today, and we're doing presidential fun, facts, and trivia, and I'm loving every minute of it. So we're going to be back here in 2 and 2. Okay, we're back, ladies and gentlemen, and like I said, we're doing fun, facts, and trivia, presidential trivia, and I've got one more for you here. And I found out this was interesting. I'm going to read this to you. Washington, Jackson, Van Buren, Taylor, Fillmore, Lincoln, Johnson, Cleveland, and Truman. None of these presidents went to college. Not once. And that goes back to Gary when he was talking about college, remember? And Truman is the only 20th century president without a college degree. Harry Truman. Way back in he was president elected. Well, he became president in 1945 when FDR died, and I think he was president in 1945 and then reelected in, I think, 50, and then Eisenhower took over. But interesting enough that here you had 9 or 10
God,
presidents
I didn't-
that never went to college.
Well, I think college that's another
I know
scam. You know, we've talked about that.
and I think you're right.
Yeah,
You know?
but I'll tell you what, Ray. The next time we do a show, we're going to do it as free men.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
no
Great
longer-
statement. Great statement.
No longer under the yoke of
You know-
of a communist style socialist government that has kept not only you and I but the whole.
You know,
let down.
I've been so busy lately with my business, and we're getting back to regulations. I'm not going to go into it. Oh my gosh, and it's just amazing when you're a small business owner, and you know, and it is just, and especially when you have an administration that we have that's leaving. Thank goodness, and so I've been real busy. But tomorrow, I'm going to do one or two things, and I'm going to be glued to television with everyone else because I'm excited. I wanna
Well,
see
you know,
every
the
bit of
nation
this.
is excited. If you're, I've never seen anything like it. I mean, I've gotten calls. My sister called this, and they're all. Well, I'm going to be by the phone the whole thing. I mean, by the TV the whole
yeah.
time. You know. Well, I used to, with the inauguration, kind of look at it, catch it
Oh,
on
yeah.
the news.
Never thought about it. You
No,
know, you just
catch it
have
on
to
the
be-
news that night, and that was
Yeah,
about
maybe
the
sitting
end
there
of
having
it.
dinner
Yeah.
at 6 o'clock, and
But man,
now-
there's people that are loaded for bear.
Oh,
In fact, people
absolutely.
are right now because they have programs,
this
ceremony
whole
stuff.
this whole campaign
Oh.
has changed me, Gary. I mean, and the radio show, of course, has a major part to do. But it's like I said earlier.
It's changed me,
When I get up
sure.
in the morning, I flip the TV on, then I go brush my teeth, and I'm looking around the corner at what's going on. But I've got Fox on immediately in the
Well,
morning.
look what we've learned in a year.
Oh,
I mean, look what things I didn't know anything about. I didn't know about a uniparty. Didn't know about a deep
No, I
state.
didn't-
know
neither
about
did I.
the connection of the established elites
Yeah.
and how that has been a yoke. I mean, it's like man, all of a sudden their slips showing.
yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? And now we see it, and there's going to be more people that aren't there yet
That are going to see it.
that are going to see it.
Absolutely, and it's happening.
Yeah.
You can see
Well,
it
I
happening.
seen it happen with me. A guy I've always liked since I was a kid was Jim Brown.
Mm-hmm.
But I got away from when he started going that way. I started saying, I don't like Jim Brown.
I never did like him.
And-
I like him now.
But I'll tell you what, when I seen
After
him
what
the
you
other
told-
day, and
yeah.
what he said, he didn't have to say it very eloquently or anything.
No.
He just come out and said, "This is what we have to do." And this
Martin
is-
Luther King the third too. He went to see
that's
him.
right.
another
And they tried every way in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And we all know, of course, he's a Democrat. I'm sure he
Right.
is.
Well, sure.
But he is. What can you say? The man
Right.
saw the light.
Exactly.
He's seen the light.
Well, Martin Luther King himself was, if he was today, I don't see how in the world he would not be for Donald Trump.
I
Do you?
think he would. I think he.
I've
he
seen
ma-
him speak.
He
and
made a
heard him-
statement once. He said, as African Americans, as black people, we need to quit blaming white people for our
Exactly.
troubles and get on and make something out of ourselves.
Exactly.
That was. I remember when he said that. My mom said, I was sitting on the couch and she turned and she said, "Did you hear what he said?"
Yep.
And I said, "Yeah." Quit blaming other people for your problems,
right.
and take care of yourself. And,
And-
don't expect them to take care of you. And that's what
And stop listening to those that are keeping you down.
Absolutely. Stop listening to the people that are keeping
With
you
the
down.
idea that they're your benefactor, because
Yeah.
they're not.
Yeah,
You are necessary for them,
yeah.
and they're not necessary for you.
That's you made the great statement earlier this year. You said when you said they come around every 4 years with their little train. I thought, my goodness, what a great statement.
Right.
You know.
No, I think there's going to be a lot of people going to feel free. You know, the shackles are off, and they're not going to have excuses like they used to, because people are going to say, "No, wait a minute, that's not an excuse. Don't you understand? This is what you can do." I mean, somebody's telling you that you can't.
Yeah.
It's time you start listening for somebody that's telling you you can.
Yeah. You know, I want to. We're getting ready to close here, and I want to today, because I feel so grateful. And there's some people I want to thank for giving me information. At the top of the list, of course, is Sandra, who always, daily, gives me information that I can use for my show, and she's 100% a great lady. I'm very fortunate to have her in my life. My best friend, Eric Starr, calls me all the time, gives me great information. You know, Dick Cranston, all my friends, they're wonderful in just giving me information. So I have a wealth of people out there helping me with this, and I thank all of you very, very much. We're going to ask Gary to come back again, like we always
Well, thank
do.
you. Ray.
And,
Yeah, this is getting to be it.
Oh, it's a regular thing with Gary.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
going to
have it.
continue, believe me. Somebody
But
said,
it's fun, you know,
Oh, it
that's-
is
yeah.
fun. I love
Yeah.
it. Somebody asked me, said, "Well, what are you going to do after Clinton gets elected?" I said, "Are you kidding? I'm going to be more than ever. There's always things that we can do." That
Oh,
Gary
it's going to
mentioned.
be
Yeah,
it's going to
even
be some
better.
exciting things, and I think there's some knowledgeable things that people. I'm kind of thinking of the past, how it was, and opportunities that were that I could bring back and
Yeah.
say, you know what, why don't you try this or
Yeah,
do that?
yeah.
Because at one time that's the way it was.
And you too, Gary. I want to thank you
Well,
for
welcome.
coming
Well,
on the
thanks,
show
Ray.
all
Nice-
these times.
Good thing I met you over at that Trump.
Yeah. I was thinking the other day, we met at the Trump rally back
Yeah.
then, and we've been great friends ever
Yeah,
since. You know,
yeah.
it's just wonderful. I love
Right.
this man. What a wonderful man. Well, we're going to go ahead and close out here now. And like I say every single week, you know, our law enforcement officers do not get the credit that they deserve. You know, they work with very little pay. It's a thankless job. Let's start thanking them. I mean, you see them all over the place. They're stopped. Maybe they're having lunch. And go up and, I'm telling you right now, go up and disturb them. You're only going to disturb them for a little while. They won't matter. And tell them how much we appreciate them, because we do. And they're very necessary in our lives, and we couldn't live without them. So until next Thursday, when we meet again joyously, and as Gary said, we'll be free men. You know,
It's a good feeling.
absolutely it is. Till next Thursday, heaven's blessings.
Just my children and my wife. I thank my lucky stars to be living here today. 'Cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I